Welcome to our third episode of News with a View from fatcatproduction.com. Tonight we have Alice Incognito with us, and we'll be really just discussing a few things that are going on in the news. And Yesterday we talked about presidential pardons, and we can discuss, the history of that, and that's Article 2, Subsection 2 of the United States Constitution, and it was there from the beginning. Alexander Hamilton introduced it at the First Constitutional Congress Convention, and thought that it should follow basically Old English law that went back to like the 7th century. The president was given a broad power of a pardon, which a pardon releases a person from any punishment and returns that person's civil rights back. Amnesty is the same thing as a pardon, but it goes to a class of people. Like you could say, Jimmy Carter gave amnesty to the Vietnam draft dodgers in one swoop, and Biden gave amnesty to minor drug convictions like marijuana. So that's where amnesty is, and then you have commutation powers where a president can say, and this is all federal, not state, where the president can go in and say this guy was serving 25 years, he served 10, cut him loose, and he reduces their sentence. But that's, of course, in federal only. And the English one that went back was some King Ian of Wessex in the 7th century. A prerogative of mercy is what it was called. And don't quote me on that. But,
Really? Like, well, I'm like, oh,
yeah, don't
good
quote me
old,
on that.
good old, like,
Yeah, well, it is what it is. But I'm almost certain it was called
Journalistic
prerogative. Yeah, well, like I
alright,
said,
yeah,
but it was, I think, a prerogative of mercy where the king could just say, "All right, you're done. Don't worry about the law," and off you go. So that's basically how our pardon system works. I don't think any president really has abused it. I don't think Biden abused it. Biden exercised it. Again, the president, and really, if anyone solidified presidential power, Donald Trump. He and again, that's great for Donald Trump, and but it follows also the president. So Biden can do it. Not that the presidential power was ever in doubt.
right.
Yeah, it was never in doubt. The president can do it, and the only thing that draws me a little into murky waters was that normally a pardon is for a crime that was committed, that was already known to exist. That kind of changed, and the interpretations of that changed when Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon was never indicted of a crime, never charged with a crime, never stood trial for a crime, and was never convicted of a crime. Yet he pardoned him, and that stopped, like yesterday, like I said, having a constitutional crisis happened, and all Gerald Ford did, and believe me, there were people on both sides of the aisle that wanted that. Just kick the can down the road. Let that be someone else's problem. And they just wanted to get that blemish done with, and have a nice scab form on the wound, and hopefully it won't scar too bad. But here we are, how many years later, and the debate is still there. Well, that's it on the pardons.
Okay.
The other thing that I was going to discuss tonight were the California fires.
Yes, terrible.
Yeah, absolutely horrible. Feel sorry for the people.
Absolutely.
But again, you have to look at the towns, the ordinances, the building that was allowed to be done in areas that were always prone. I mean, California always had fires. This is nothing new to California. And I would say substandard safety and building codes, where these houses, and there's no different down here in South Carolina. We've had a fire in the Carolina forest.
Yeah, we have.
That destroyed, destroyed hundreds of homes.
Yep, acres and acres.
Yeah, because the houses are built 8 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And you're on the coast here. It's windy, and you get a fire and heat and everything else, and
But the problem is it comes on so quick there. Like you get those. It's the perfect storm of dry weather, strong winds. And then it just engulfs everything. But I don't know.
Again,
code-wise, I'm not sure how that.
Well,
would help.
maybe they should have these communities have fire spaces between communities, so one community can't set the other community on fire, and so forth. That you have to have fire breaks like you have in forests. Maybe you need to put in an infrastructure of sprayers. That maybe the roofs.
Great. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think that's
well, I mean, again, that it sounds great. I don't know.
Again, you're right. Can it be done?
Can it be done?
Right.
I mean, it could be done, but
financially, I don't know
right.
what that looks like. But yes, are there precautionary measures? Of course.
Yeah, and
but can that happen in a timely manner?
No,
I don't think
and it can't happen in a cheap manner. But maybe fireproof roofs. Maybe they have to go with cement.
Yeah, I think there's all. You're right.
But
there's
again,
things to
now
look
you're
at.
in an earthquake zone. Do you really
That's
want 6 tons on top of your
Well,
house?
that I was about to say. They have fires and they have earthquakes, so nothing. It's
Welcome to California.
right. There's a lot going on there.
The other thing
Structurally,
in the news,
I don't know how. Right.
Right.
You probably, people would just lose their homes and their shirts. They couldn't afford to build a home that was everything proof.
well, and now you get to
And then to get it insured.
well, that's the second part.
I mean, right.
The
We can go on and
insurance
on about
rates.
how, right.
The insurance rates, and it just is not going to affect California. It's a
No,
pool.
right.
It's a pool.
Exactly.
And we all have to feed
It's the
the
trickle
pool.
down effect,
And will you have more companies that say, "Hey, we're not writing,
Right.
we're not writing policies, or we're limiting the policies to
I know
$300,000?"
firsthand about that.
Yeah.
I got dropped from 2
Yeah.
of my homeowner's
Yeah.
insurance because of where we live.
Yeah.
When we weren't even in a flood zone.
Oh.
Yes, we were in a hurricane zone, but
Yeah.
okay.
So is the whole East Coast.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
that
I mean,
didn't.
yeah.
Right, I kind of was like, okay, So yeah, that I get it, and then it becomes unaffordable.
Well,
It's
yeah.
priced so high that you can't even
My
afford
wind
it.
and hail for my house is $4,400 a year. $4,400.
Yeah, mine's 2,200, and
Yeah.
it might be a little higher, but it's right in about that range.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a 4,200 square foot house with
Yeah.
a roof. I mean, it's a big house.
No, mine,
But yeah, you
nowhere
pay.
near the size.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
because we're a little closer.
Yeah. And what worries me is I'm backed right up onto protected land, which is a really, they call it wetlands
Land.
here. In New
Wetlands.
York, we call them swamps, but it's trees and everything, and it does get dry. And I've often wondered,
Every
gee,
home is
yeah,
built on a swamp here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's really not solid ground,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah,
We
well,
knew
maybe,
what you.
yeah, I,
knew
I knew
you
what
were
I was buying,
Yeah.
so it wasn't like what, yeah,
My house is sinking.
yeah,
Why?
really, yeah, and then really houses have sunk
But
in the muck.
but okay, let's.
But the fire insurance, the insurance is going to drive people out of the housing market, and then you have all right, so you can't own a house, but someone's going to own that apartment building that then also has to have insurance, which
It's
is astronomical. And you wonder why rent is $5,800 a month.
yes.
Well, because their cost and uh, not that California has any higher property taxes than a lot of places. That's probably the least of the contributing factors. Uh, but insurance,
Yeah.
how do we rectify that? And again, and everything is AIG. And all these fire policies, everything just goes into one super fund,
Yep.
which we've bailed out. And because if that AIG fund would go, that's pension protection, that's life insurance, that's a whole bunch of
Well,
things other than fire insurance.
we can go on a tangent about insurance,
Yeah.
and all of that nonsense, but yet you're still allowing them to build on
Yes.
beachfront property. You
Yes.
know, right. So if we're really concerned about the beach erosion and stuff like that, you're still allowing
Well,
builders
but
to
that's-
build, and they're still giving
But
out
that's the
insurance
county.
policies.
That
to
is the
that.
county ordinances that are allowing it, and they're looking at what was just, sand dunes and grass wasn't generating any tax revenue. Now we can go in there, and I mean,
Well,
there's places in Key West, Florida,
but then I mean, if
that are $74,000 a year, or property taxes, and so now the counties, hey, we just put up 50 houses there in that little community.
But
That's a lot
that's
of
the
money.
thing. So you have builders, and the builders are building. It's fine. They're getting the funding from the banks and stuff like that. But then the banks are giving out mortgages to these people on property that it's 99.9% sure that come a bad storm, whether that's a tropical storm or a Category 4 that rolls through here, you still gave out that mortgage knowing that that's a risk.
Yes,
So, but they still keep doing it. They keep building, and the insurance policies they're still writing notes on it. They're still giving it out.
well, in some places, in
but
Florida,
then-
you can't get insurance. The state had to step in and go, we're starting our own insurance pool. And how long do you think that can last?
Right.
I mean, when some guy that lives in the middle of the state is paying for a $30 million Mar-a-Lago, that this guy has a double wide trailer.
Yeah.
And you're subsidizing that. And should the government get into the business of being a business?
No.
There you go.
No.
There you go.
I don't know.
let-
The government has
and-
already
but then-
overreached
yes,
in
but-
areas
but
that
then
they have
again-
no business being
But
in.
then again, you have the idea of, yes, let the free market decide the thing, the cost, and you can't afford it. So banks lend the money out, knowing that they sell that note, 10 minutes after you
Yeah,
signed
but the
it.
banks know that it has to be insured. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, so
Yes,
banks
but they
know you get a mortgage, but you can't get that mortgage unless you know that you
Yes,
can
but-
be
but
insured.
again,
so
they-
they're
all they-
all their hands are in the same pot,
Yeah,
knowing.
but not for long, because what happens is that bank takes that note, packages it with 500 other great loans, and sells it off to a pension fund, sends it off to people. And yes, your contract for that mortgage says you must have X
Yes.
amount of insurance. But what happens when that doesn't cover it? What happens when the insurance company turns around and goes, "No, you got flooded. That wasn't a hurricane that knocked your house down. That was the tide coming in and flooding, and you don't have flood insurance because you were not eligible for it." Now, you can walk away from the property and go, adios.
yeah.
As someone's hold at the end of the day, The music has stopped and there's no chair to sit down on. Someone pays for it. This is no NFL, no free lunch. This is, someone has to pay for it, and it's pension funds. It's other people. It's other countries who buy these notes, and for
Yes.
7%.
Yeah, I know, because that's what happened to us.
Yeah.
They sold our,
Oh,
and then
absolutely.
we had to go, and then it was a good 3.5 weeks of trying to find an insurance policy.
Yeah.
That would take us,
Yeah,
It was
we had the same
frustrating.
problem.
Frustrating.
We had like I think I discussed it, $28,000 worth of hail damage, and my insurance company paid it, and it wasn't much of a push. They came, they saw, they fixed, and
But did it go up? Did your
no, my insurance company, that company went out of business after I had paid my $3,700 premium. 2 weeks later, I get a notice, company went bellied up. I would only buy insurance from a insurance company that is insured by the state of South Carolina against that happening. So in the end, I went to the Department of Insurance, whoever it was that we contacted, and we got all our money back less $100.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then we had to go find, another insurance company. I was not under the gun because I'm not under a mortgage commitment.
Correct.
So I could have sat back and go, you know what, I'll roll the dice
Yeah, you could have.
and save $4,000 or $5,000 and pray that something doesn't happen. I don't want to live that way.
Right.
Insurance is always cheap when you need it. When you don't need it, oh, what a pain! I'm paying all this money. But I have $28,000 worth of damage, and they come in, look at it, and go, "Here's a check." Okay, all right, that worked
But
out
that's
well.
what it's there for. That's
Right.
the intentions.
But
of
now a lot of these insurance companies are not doing that. They're people are finding out, and it's the people's fault in the sense that are purchasing. Let the buyer beware. That don't understand. Oh well, I got an insurance policy and it.
Well,
it
you
will
don't
pay.
understand the language in it. That's
Right,
the
and
problem.
and that's where a good real estate lawyer would tell you that, hey, listen, they just want you to have a fire and liability policy, but and you're not in a flood zone, but you know what? You might want to take out a flood policy for a couple of $100.
Yeah, that's what we do.
And that's exactly what I do here. My flood insurance here, and now of course you're limited to only $250,000.
Correct.
But my flood insurance, only costs me a couple of $100 per year. Well, I say a couple, maybe 400.
Mine's 600.
Yeah, mine might have gone up to
600.
$595.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Uh,
yeah, I'm
but
rounding
yeah,
up. So yes, it's 600 for the year.
But I have
I'm not taking that risk.
I have fire, I have liability, I have wind and hail, and I have all this. Now I got health insurance. Now I have everything else. And I said, like yesterday, well, we figured it out between the car, between this, between everything, probably close to $15,000 a year in insurance.
Which
Uh,
is shocking because it's almost unaffordable for most.
Yes. Yes, I am
Right.
fortunate that I can afford it.
But that's it. Goes back to right. Wanting to go back to the Californias and setting up all.
But
these
I would rather
these
give my children or
building
my
codes and
grandchildren.
standards.
Here's a couple of $1,000 this year. Enjoy. Do what you want. You want to go to Disney? Go to Disney. That's what we do. And the others could use it to buy new shades for their house, or hey, pay off this credit card. But you can't. You can't.
Well, I don't know. We'll see if something changes. I just think it's going to get worse as far as insurance goes.
Well, it because
it always
if the
does
more-
after these
well,
fires. Everything gets all
yeah,
crazy, and we'll see. But
Well, and
we'll see what happens.
my car insurance went up 22%.
Oh well, yes, we can talk about that. Car
Yeah.
insurance. You had homeowners insurance. Now we can talk about car insurance, especially down here. But it's not just isolated to South Carolina.
no,
We saw such a huge influx after COVID, where people did bail out of their their states and stuff, and they did do, I called the mass exodus because that's really what it was. We watched it firsthand. That all these people that came from other states came here, flooded our market, and we watched all of that car insurance rates go up. Just because we had so many more people on the roads, more people mean, honestly, more accidents. Let's just be real here. As far as theft goes, in
Yeah.
cars, we saw that. We saw that uptick. Yeah, and we're paying the price for that influx of people.
My friend's 87 years old. And, he goes, oh, my God, my insurance went up 25%. And I go, I'm surprised he even gave you insurance.
How old are they?
87, and he drives. It's frightening to watch.
No, I mean, I'm not knocking every 80-something-year-old who's out there driving because, there's times where I feel like they're probably more alert than me half the time. But that's enough, and I'm not.
I mean, I get ripped on the interstate because I'm doing 75, and I got people next to me in my car, in the seat next to me, going, "You're not going fast enough," and I'm like,
"You're not. You're not Mr. Magoo."
Yeah. I go. I think we're going to fly off the earth if I go any faster.
Please.
And no. I have a son-in-law that called 6 hours after I left Disney to see if I got out of Florida already.
Well.
There's
some truth behind that. There's some truth. But no, I just, it's crazy. The rates have gone up grossly. Again, unaffordable. And now you're seeing it. So like if you do happen to get into an accident here with someone who is not insured or under, uninsured,
Yeah.
you're, unfortunately, you're gonna walk away from that accident, having to use your own,
insurance.
and it becomes fault. So then your premiums are gonna go up because you're gonna have to utilize your own insurance to pay for your damages, and God forbid anything other medical, down that avenue is even more of a nightmare. But
I just
see that. I don't know how some of these people can afford. And
I just
sad.
had a friend that they pulled his Aetna medical insurance because he had a hip replaced, he had an elbow replaced, he had something else, and they yanked it. And he didn't find out about it until he had gone to the hospital. Wow. He thought he was having a heart attack, and he found out he didn't have insurance.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, I say this lightly because I know some people will be like, "Oh, it's needed." Me personally, I think insurance is the biggest scam going. Just gonna throw it out there. Do I believe that it has its uses and it's good? Absolutely. But at the same time, I think we're being scammed. There's so many things where I just feel like, really? Like, right, you pay all these premiums, you pay into this stuff, and then get denied access, to being able to utilize what you've actually paid into the system for.
I know. Listen.
But
after my wife had a procedure that has cost about $700,000 already, and really, I paid, $1,500 so far. I haven't gotten the rest of the bills yet, but the insurance got her in there, got it done, and yes, I have Medicare, I have supplemental, I have a very good medical policy, and again, that cost me close to $4,800 a year. But $4,800 a year, you see people paying that for a family for 2 months.
Well, on the medical side, I'll retract that. Not a scam on the medical side, but some of it is. Some of it is.
Well, let's.
But I'm talking like car insurance,
Yeah.
homeowners insurance, those types where everything is, it's a, you're almost scared. I gotta have it because it's the unknown. I can't predict the unknown, so I have to have it. But at the same time, you go to use it, and then it's not available.
Well,
or you use it
find
and you
out,
get dropped.
Right.
So that to me, I find that a bit of a scam. On the medical side of it.
Now let's talk about.
Back in the day, yeah.
Let's talk about the medical side, and let's talk about the hospitals submitting to the insurance company a $60,000 bill, and they settle it for $1,200. Yet if I went in there, they'd hit me for the $60,000 if I didn't have insurance.
Again, part of the scam. I'm not saying everything, but they're
But
that's a scam.
I
You're
I
you're
I
scamming.
I submit this for your approval. If we did not have an aggressive medical system out here, do you think that they would have been able to, or would be profitable for someone to build an MRI, a CAT scan, a cardio catheter, all these things that we have, if only 60 machines were being built, for a country, or, or because everyone was using it and paying for it, that the MRI, which was $1 million machine now, you could probably buy for about $20,000. So progress costs money, and the idea that build a better mousetrap, and now what do Democrats want to do to people that are successful? They want to tax them. The $1 million tax, the $1 billion tax. So what they're saying is, yes, we were taught in school, if you build a better mousetrap, they'll come to you. And the guy that built the bad or the old one and didn't use technology to stay in competition, well, sorry, but now you seem to be being punished for it. I understand where people go, does it Jeff Bezos, does he need $1 trillion? When is it enough?
Well, why does it have to be enough?
Well,
Why do we have to draw that line? I'm just asking. So, like, we
o-
always have
only-
these lines
only
where it's like,
because when-
you don't deserve that. No one deserves that much money. Well, no one deserves anything.
yeah, well,
You're not guaranteed tomorrow. No one really deserves anything. So I guess why do we think that we get to draw a line at
because
what
the
someone's
people,
cap should be as far
it's
as
the
their
haves
income?
and the haves not. The people that are that don't have it, looking over the fence at the green pasture, sitting in dirt, go, hey, where's my green pasture? Now,
But-
I don't. Again,
I know.
Yes.
That person might have worked
yes,
their life off to accomplish that
Yes.
as a goal.
it took financial risks. I took the last time I had, and
I can complain
Yeah,
too, and I
yeah.
could say, well, maybe if I made better decisions, maybe
Yeah.
if I studied more or put forth effort in my life goals, I might be somewhere else.
oh my God, you just described my third grade report card.
Yeah, really. Please, I wish mine said that.
Needs improvement, doesn't put enough effort.
Goals, you say?
Yeah,
Goals.
really, yeah.
There was life goals I was supposed to achieve? But anyway.
Whoa!
That's for
no
another
one said
time.
anything. No one had said anything about goals.
Well, I've got plenty of goals up in here.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean
yeah,
they
yeah,
live
really.
up here.
I mean, gimme,
I haven't actually,
gimme.
hit the ground running with those goals.
So you look
I
at
just-
this, and this.
But even if someone does, so
Yes.
they earn. Here's the difference: they earn $1 trillion versus some lucky person who wins the lottery and wins $1 billion. You didn't do anything other than buy a ticket for that, and everyone's very like, oh, congratulatory! Oh my God, they won the lotto! Blah blah blah. But that person might have really worked their butt off to make $1 billion. And that's what I'm trying to say. So, like,
Yes, one-
where do you draw that fine line of saying that's acceptable? Oh, but that's not acceptable. You could win here a lottery and you're acceptable. Oh, but you work your butt off and you made that kind of money. That's not acceptable.
But again,
you become a target.
Again, that
You
$1
become a
billion
target.
that $1 billion gets immediately taxed. You're not protected. Like a lot of these businesses,
Of course,
are,
good old Uncle Sam is going to take his cut. Of
but
course.
he'll take it from that person, and okay, I'm going to use Donald Trump as an example. He paid, I don't know what, a ridiculously little amount of money, and he didn't violate the law. The law states
Correct.
this is what you can do. So the problem isn't the person making the money. The problem is the people
No, they become a target
who
for
and-
everyone else
and
who
you
doesn't
show
make
me
that money.
You show me. I'd like to know what Pelosi paid.
I would
It's
love
there.
to.
I mean, it's
Yes,
there. I
it's
could
public-
I
it's
could
public
Google it,
record.
but
Yeah.
there's so much other money. Her husband Paul, all the insider trading, when he was
Paul, Paul.
Paul, my side door is open. Pelosi.
Oh, I feel a
okay.
breeze, Paul.
Let me just put on this 12-button shirt. Yeah.
Anyway,
There.
we can have a whole nother.
A hammer, you say?
Anyway,
We digress.
we totally digress. You're gonna learn if you stay on and actually watch us.
Yeah, it does. When I do it, I'm very serious. When I have other people here, it's a performance. But we try to use facts. We always try to inject facts into what makes it legal, what makes it allowed, and again,
Right, come back to the taxation part of it.
Yeah.
Let's go back to being serious. But yes,
Yes.
but those people are still following the law. They're going through an accountant. They're
Yeah.
getting everything is what it should be, for the most part.
yes,
But yeah,
And-
and that's
and-
why I just feel like when people actually attack people who actually do make money,
yes,
I don't like that. I find that very frustrating because it's just, what are we doing? Why are we targeting those people?
Yeah,
because
there's no
because
reason
you
to
didn't
target.
achieve that goal, so you're jealous and you want to keep putting your nose over that fence, thinking, they're better, so I got to bring them down.
Oh, hold it, Maureen. The words hurt. You gotta. I mean.
It's true though. It's true.
I mean.
It's true. It's frustrating, just to witness stuff like that, and then to hear people get jealous like that. But
And Alice, I meant to say, but.
you know,
But the issue with insurance and
it's
you,
a problem.
So you want
and
do you
it's-
want the government to step in and go? This is and
again? I say
we have
no
the
because I
government-
don't. They
we,
overreach on
we have
every
the
little thing we
government
do.
in
But
every inch of our lives.
don't want it.
But if you didn't have the government in every inch of some of these companies, not that the company would price themselves out of business. They're not doing that. But what they end up doing is saying, did you read page 39 of your $5,000 policy that states, did this happen in the dark because we don't cover it in the dark?
Yep.
And the exception clause is, if it's light out, we also
Right.
don't.
yeah. Well, we witnessed firsthand what happened in
Yeah.
upstate South Carolina
Yeah.
and North Carolina during the
Yeah, during
the horrific events that occurred there, that government funded FEMA didn't even really help.
Well,
And
FEMA,
they did,
FEMA
and the
isn't-
way they did, and what
right.
what was uncovered.
Yeah, but FEMA
But-
wasn't an insurance underwriter. FEMA was there for people that needed emergency help immediately. Federal Emergency Management. I mean, that's what it is. It's
Government
emergency
run.
management. But they're not in the insurance business.
They're not in the insurance business.
Yeah,
But
they will come in.
I'm trying to
and,
state,
and write,
like,
yeah.
looking at how they reacted and what they did to those people. I do not want my government involved in
Well-
the insurance part of it because they couldn't even handle that.
Yeah, I mean,
And what they did to, and still doing, still doing to
Yes.
those people is outrageous.
yeah, and you
So
always
I look
listen.
at that. That's a window into, dear
But that-
God,
yeah.
that they are the last people I want in that regard of
But
helping me.
when there is no one else to turn to, you got to have a government that's going to be there when I've tried
But their
everyone.
insurance companies aren't even helping them. It goes deeper than that. Like
But-
their own people who did have insurance or didn't have insurance because flooding and mudslides. Who would have thought? Who knew that was going to be a problem?
Yes, but again, if you looked at the historical area, and it was a flood. They had this before. This was not new to the areas of the Carolinas, the areas of Georgia, the areas of Virginia. This was not an unknown once in 1,000 years that you hear all the time, and then 2 years later it's a 1,000 year storm again. I go, well, I don't feel that old. Uh, so people have to realize, and again, that's where a good real estate attorney would say, listen, for $500 a year, yeah, it might be a good idea for you to do this. Now, in a lot of these areas, it was not available.
Right.
It was not available. My friend that lives in the Keys, he can't get it. He can't get it. Now, he owns his house outright. He's very fortunate. And he doesn't even have fire insurance because he's on an island. To get to his island, you have to go over 2 bridges that, well.
And he can't get insurance because no one will write.
No, he can't. They won't write it. Now, he can go to Lloyd's of London and pay $1,000 a month,
That was one of ours one time. We actually did. I can honestly say I had a Lloyd's of London insurance. Yeah. And then they quickly sold it,
Yeah.
We got put in that little pile and, sold to someone else. But
yes,
I don't know. I'm not a fan of what the government does sometimes. And how they react, how they handle things on a grand scale, especially something
it's
to
super.
that
They're
effect.
super agencies that run with their own rules. They shouldn't. FEMA money was used for non-citizens. It's been proved. That money that could have been used for citizens in North Carolina, but Congress then got on the ball and funded. But we did that. That was our money that should have been used. And you might have had to come to us again and go, we need more money for North Carolina. You know what? Yeah, sure, okay. And then we go in there and look to make sure that it's not,
But
going to Fat Cat Production or something.
but there you go.
Yeah.
You uncovered, once again, the secrets that go on. You're
when you're dealing
the
with those
government,
things,
right? But that's what I
nothing
don't want. I
runs.
don't want the government. In
nothing runs.
certain businesses. They don't have a reason to be there. I feel like they can't even manage what they got.
Well, they can.
No.
As we used to say, mismanaging is managing. Mismanaging is managing. You're just doing it really bad, but you are managing it. I had a federal examiner come into our credit union, and he started questioning some of our policies, and I laughed. I go, well, what happened if I had a policy of not having a policy? And we state that, and he goes, I'll shut you down in a minute, and I'm like, I know, I understand, but here's our policy, and if you're not happy with the policy,
But it shouldn't be acceptable. Like you're, like saying, oh well, mismanaging is still managing. No, that's not acceptable.
I didn't say it was acceptable.
but-
It's still managing. You could drive a car 100 miles down the road, an hour down the road, swerving all over the place. Theoretically, you're driving, right?
Yeah, but
Okay, stop.
but that's our money. There's a bigger like that is the taxpayer money pool
Yes.
that they're messing with, and
Yes.
that's what I don't like. That's why I keep every time
But
I turn around and I
you
look
have-
at
you
I
have-
look at news,
you
I
have
read
to have-
articles, and it's cringeworthy because it's just what in the world is going on? Where is all of our money going to? Why don't we know what's really going on? They work for us. We don't. They work for us.
I would say that FEMA probably is managed decently. But again, with anything, when you're talking billions of dollars, and the oversight on it is so lax.
Yeah.
Now they will
That's
eventually,
concerning.
10 years down the road, look at something and go, "What? We paid $300 for screwdrivers?" Where that should have been like, you can't pay more than $8.99, and you buy from Harbor Freight.
Right. Hook up with Harbor Freight. They'll make a deal.
It's,
Put the bid in. Put the bid in Harbor Freight.
yeah. And then we'll tax them when they come over with the tariff. It's a win-win. It sounds wonderful.
It'll be wonderful.
We'll buy Canada.
Yeah.
Just buy
Yeah,
Canada.
really.
Just
Yeah,
tell
I
them,
always
just buy
like.
Canada.
Yeah, I always like Greenland. That's a nice name. Green like money.
So yeah, I get it, but
That's just me. That's my personal opinion. That's all it is. Is probably a crappy opinion, but it is what it is.
no. My opinion, as I said yesterday, is never crappy. It's always right,
No,
I'm never
it's
wrong.
not. It's not.
and I love hearing what I say coming out of other people's mouths.
Yeah,
Oh, that's fantastic. But the idea of what I call an uncontrollable government agency. Who's minding the store, and who's minding it?
all good questions.
And
Shouldn't we know?
but and where are the Republicans who sit on these committees going, whoa, and the Democrats? So I refuse to blame one party because they're all part of it, and they get called out, and they have to get called out,
Well, they should.
and
It is our job as we the people to call them out, and it's our job to stay on top of what is going on within our government.
up to a point. We elect people to represent us, and those people are the ones that we give the power to go. You're the legislator. Regardless if they're Democrat or Republican,
Right.
they speak for every citizen.
Correct. I voted you in. So that,
Or I
right,
did
there's
vote you in,
representation there.
but you still. If I lived in New York, and
well, you were
I-
voted in.
and-
Period. So you.
but right,
you
and
voted
and,
in.
and I didn't vote for Chuck Schumer, but Chuck Schumer represents me.
Right.
So they represent everyone. The president, when he's elected, doesn't say yeah,
Right. He's not just for the Republicans.
Republicans or a Democrat.
Right.
He's
He's for everyone.
And
He's
the
for everyone.
That's why you have a constitution. That's why you have a Bill of Rights. This is why, so everyone is on the same playing field and level. And no one has a step or a leg up on someone else. Now, FEMA didn't have a leg up on anyone, but no one's checking. No one is saying, hey, we spent this money, $958 million putting illegals in housing because we had to put them somewhere. And the somewhere was, the other side of the border where they came over from.
You didn't have to let him in.
Yeah. And you
Have
did.
a better
so now-
plan. If you were going to let him in, you didn't have a plan, and that's what's scary.
Yeah, right.
You just let him in with no real plan, and then said, "Okay, well, I'll just rob Peter to pay Paul."
Ask the Indians how that worked out for them. How did their immigration policy work for the Indians here? Yeah, ask them. They go, should have had immigration policy, and that's the best example I can give. You have people that come in,
But
no
we
questions
did,
asked.
But we did. We did have an immigration policy.
Oh, no, we have an
No,
we
like
have
we-
one today. We have an immigration
Yeah,
policy.
but it's
today.
not being
right.
It's not being used,
and that's the
acknowledged
problem.
anymore.
You
and-
allowed state people in states to go. We're not going to follow the federal law. Extremely, extremely dangerous attitude to have, and I say this because we've seen what happened when states refuse to follow the guidelines of the federal government. That's the umbrella over all of us. The states have an umbrella over us, but over the state is an umbrella. And guess what that was called, folks? That was called the Civil War. Where you had states saying, my state rights outdo your federal rights. And if we want to run our state this way, you don't have a say in it. Yeah, that became a problem. It just wasn't about slavery. It was about state rights. And where did they Where do they start and where do they end? And again, being a Federalist, that I am, the Constitution is all empowering. All hail the United States Constitution. All hail the Bill of Rights. But if it doesn't mention something in there, very good example, abortion, then the states can and have said it is not a federal right. It's not a guarantee. But because it is not, my state, we can have that. And this is our structure for doing such a procedure. And you can have states that say, beginning to end, abortions for everyone. And you can have states that say, no, you can only have an abortion if you meet this, and this. Those are state rights. The beautiful part about state rights are you can elect people who agree with your agenda. You could find those people and go, I'm going to push you because this is what's important to me. You don't, not every politician is going to hit 100% of what you want. But if they hit 51% and the other guy only hits 20%, it's an easy lift. I'll go with the guy. I'll take 51% over 30% of a chance or of my agendas. So that's why state legislators are so one of the most important for in a state that you could do, because these are the people that write the laws, that put the laws forward and then turn them into laws. A bill and then turned into a law. Very important. The same thing with Congress. The same thing with a senator. You need people that fit your agenda, and when you can do that, that's great. And that's the way the system is supposed to work. Not the flip side where the state tells the federal government what they're how the federal government has to be. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't designed that way, and it won't work. And it becomes dangerous when you have mayors, and you have. I don't think any governors have said they won't follow federal guidelines on immigration. But you've had mayors that have said that,
Yes.
and you've had district attorneys who said we won't.
Yep.
Hey, guess what? You're aiding and abetting a criminal. Put your hands behind your back. My advice is lawyer up, and you're gonna be the first one to have the bracelets put on you.
But they're not doing that.
Oh, I wouldn't say that that's not going to happen. You wait and see, because they will make an example. Someone will be the sacrificial lamb, and it will happen. Some mayor in some city, in some town, somewhere will go, I'm protecting them. I told the police force to, not allow these federal agents in. And they did that with ICE. They stopped them from going. They did it with ICE. They stopped them from going to state courthouses. Hey,
Yep.
that they should have dragged those people out and said, okay, boom, boom, okay, it's all right. We arrest you first, and then we'll go in and we'll get this other guy. They're very simple. And
You think that's what's going to happen?
yes, that
Sacrificial
will
lamb
happen. Yep,
of-
that will happen. And I think Trump will try his best to deport people. He has 1.6 million on a list that Biden approved that have to be deported. So that was by the prior administration.
Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that?
So, and that's a fact.
Biden administration.
And if you look back, I think the president with the most amount of deporting people was Bill Clinton.
Is that-
Yeah, I think it was Bill Clinton. And you'd think it would have been a Bush or someone like that.
Yeah.
No. And even Obama.
Oh
deported,
yes,
yeah, deported
Obama did.
millions.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't know millions, but he
No,
deported.
he deported.
Yeah,
he had his
yeah,
share of
yes, he
deportation.
he
But
followed, and you know why? You know why Obama and Bill Clinton did that? Because they were lawyers and they understood the Constitution and they understood how far they could go. Now, of course, you have an attorney general that sits there, and you have White House lawyers that go, and you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that because this could happen. And again, that is has been a standard, been a gold standard, and you have someone like Donald Trump who comes in there, and he's not a lawyer, and he doesn't even listen to his own lawyers, and that's where you can get jammed up because the Constitution is actually very clear on most of these issues have been vetted already. Now you can go back, and like I said, he will go back, and he's going to ask for a clarification of the 14th Amendment, Section 1. It's going to happen. And I personally, I can write down, and I'll do that. I'll put it in an envelope. I'll seal it. I'll have it stamped, and I'll tell you exactly what the Supreme Court, what their ruling will be what I
pigeon
feel.
couriered to my house. I'm really done.
Hold it. No. But you could open it up and go, on this date, I said this is how they would rule.
I get it. Yeah.
And
Good,
I think people are going to be
on
very
point. You've been pretty on
Yeah.
point with things. So
Yeah, and because the Constitution is really simple but extremely complex. It's like a math formula, and if you follow all the
keyword follow.
if you follow,
People don't want to follow. They don't want to follow what they considered an outdated. You know, but
and if you follow it and look back on prior cases, and it's amazing. I love history. I can't remember where I put my wallet, but I love history. It's amazing that we go over the same ground over and over and over again. And it's just like you have children and they ask you 100 times for something. And you go, what part of the 99 times have I told you that's not going to happen? Or no, and I'll give you the same reason I gave you 99 times. Stop asking. And I think that has to happen where the Supreme Court goes, we're not hearing it. That's the law. You don't like it. Now, get 2/3 of the states to agree on an amendment, and we can go in and now we can talk. But as of now, no, we see no reason to change it. The wording on birthright exceptions where you it's actually very clear. And I think people are going to be extremely surprised, and you're going to have a lot of people that are very upset by it. And once that happens, and you could see Trump and his people already gearing up for that type where he goes, we're not going to separate families. If mommy and daddy aren't citizens, but the children were born here, if it goes that way where they do have citizenship rights, well, you know what? Take your kids with you. And when they turn 18, they can come back here. They're citizens. Or you leave them with a relative who is a citizen. Or you give them up for foster care. But no one is separating you from them. You have the right. We'll give them the airplane ticket right next to you on out of the country airlines, and you're gone. and no one is stopping you. Now, do I want to see that type of thing happen? I don't want to see that type of thing happen. I think there is a pathway that can be done, but only when our borders are secure. So you can't have a run for the roses. You can't have 6 million people trying to get over that border to get their big toe in here, and for citizenship. How many Haitians, how many Cubans have drowned with the idea that if you make it to shore, you could stay here. And that is their goal. How many of these people have died because of a policy that says we can stop you at sea and turn you away, but if you manage to get to land, you get to stay. I mean, that's crazy.
It is.
And you're putting these people where they go, you know what?
They're willing to risk it. Well, they're willing to risk it all. Because of where they live, and it's like a no way out situation. So that's the only way out. Is they're willing to risk their life and their whole family's life to seek
But
a safe haven in America.
Shouldn't we have a door in that wall?
Yes,
that is
we
open,
should have control over that.
And just like my doorbell, you ring the doorbell.
You
just can't walk in my house.
Control of who comes in.
Yes, and
it's needed. It doesn't. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm just making sure we're not running out of time.
That yes, it's unfortunate, and this with families and all that stuff. But again, that there's a bigger picture.
Yes.
And you just only want to show me down that little narrow path of that picture of the families being ripped up.
Yes.
And torn apart and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
you were willing to risk your family's life getting here. So you already took that risk, saying you could have lost all or several of your family members just to get here. So the mere fact that now that you might have to go back and with your family, no one's saying that they have to stay behind when they can all leave together.
That's right.
Right. You can all leave together,
Right.
Go back to your, to your country, reestablish yourself there, figure it out. You figured it out here, you can figure it out anywhere.
Well, but there is a path that can be done. We could stop the border right now and say, unless you have met these requirements to come through, everyone stops, and then say for the next 6 months, if you're illegal, you register, so we can know who you are. If you don't have
been that way from the beginning.
No, but it wasn't, it wasn't under Eisenhower. It wasn't under Kennedy. It wasn't under Ford. It wasn't under any. So
what happened? What happened to that? And why that? Why
originally, what had happened?
Why did it just become a floodgate and everyone was just allowed in? It didn't matter. But now it's a problem because we can't financially afford to.
I'll stop you.
To take in immigrants.
No, I'll stop you. Because we flooded this country with Irish to dig the freaking Erie Canal. Because no one would do it.
Okay.
We flooded this country with Chinese to build our railroad. Because no one would work for coolie wages. So it is industry that brought over immigration. If you were going to starve in Europe and you were going to starve here, why come here?
But you consider that legal immigration because they were brought over here with purpose to work, right?
Yes, but there was no end strategy. There was no one saying, all right, job is done, you got your wages, you go home. There was nothing. It just, and there was
Because could there truly be a timeline for that? Because if they were utilizing them in the
But there was no structure for that. We needed people. We had industry. They stopped working on the railroad and then built roads.
that's what I mean,
And
right?
then-
Like that's what I'm saying. So like that industry just it kept
but they-
evolving. So
but
like there was no real
any,
timeline.
There
for
was
them
never
to
really
say.
an immigration. They just brought them over, and they weren't forced over. They weren't
Right, 'cause
forced
they're
over. They
coming
came
here
over
with a purpose,
right.
for work.
And there was a very famous court case. I think it was in like in 1890 or where a man that was born here to Chinese parents, who had the Chinese parents lived here for years in California, and he went back to China to visit.
Mm-hmm.
When he came back in,
To America or China?
and came back into America,
Okay.
he was stopped. And they go, "Well, you're not a citizen." And he goes, "Well, I was. I was born here, and my parents." And they go, "Well, they're not citizens, so you can't come in." And that was at the time of a lot of anti-Asian influx. They were, they were just coming over, but there was a reason for it. And the Supreme Court ruled that since his parents were here and established, he had citizenship. And that opened not a floodgate, but it told a lot of people in the immigration thing that we just can't stop people. The immigration laws of the 1920s, then the immigration laws in the 1950s, then set boundaries that what was done in 1950 would not have been acceptable in 1920, and vice versa. So you can't go, well, we changed the law. No, the law then goes forward from this date, doesn't go backwards. It's not retroactive, going back. So there are precedences. The problem when you have a court that then makes a legal opinion is it then becomes, just as I said, it goes to a class of people. It doesn't go just, this is only for, for Alice Incognito. This law is for everyone that fits the class of people that Alice Incognito fits. So you win the case, and everyone that fits your criteria,
Get to go.
and that's the way that works.
I mean, it's a huge undertaking.
It
If they
is.
want to try to deport all these people that they let in,
It's not going to happen.
it's a nightmare.
It's not.
But I know I don't see it happening. I mean,
And
I could
it
be
was-
wrong, but it's a big undertaking. It needs to stop. There needs to be a stopping
what
point.
it was for
no
the
more from this
what it
point
was for
forward.
the American voters was it was palatable. There was a person who was saying this has to stop. And we got to take these criminals. We got to take these people that they are not letting, they're not sending them back. They got to go. We have a bucket list of people that really, they got to go.
Absolutely.
And-
if those are the first rounds,
Yes, we have.
start with them before you start breaking family
We have
up,
over
but-
a million people, but some of those people do have family, and they got to go.
No. If
They-
you are
they-
if you are
I
a
get it.
criminal,
You got to go.
you gotta go.
And you take your family with you because
Yeah.
they're here illegally. Out you
Gotta
go.
go.
Out you go.
You can start at that level.
Yeah. And
I'm fine with
he
starting
can.
at that
and
level.
and that's where Trump should go to because that's low hanging fruit.
Right.
Easy to pick. Done. We got them in detention camps, half of them. Get the Greyhound buses going.
Right. Again, still a taxpayer paying for it. So get them out. Start there.
We should not look at the cost and say I want a
I
cost to
disagree.
reward.
I disagree.
It's very simple. They shouldn't be here. They got to go.
Yeah. But in the interim, we've let them in, so now we're taking care of them.
Well, Not
on
only,
the backs
not
of
only
us.
did you let them in, but you protected that class of people.
Yeah. So
And it should never have been allowed. I said the federal Biden, all these people and mostly I'll put this on Biden. You took an oath to to follow the Constitution of the United States. Well, here's the Constitution says you got to abide by the laws. And you're going, well, I don't like the laws. I'm going to write this
Laws,
executive
laws.
order,
Yeah.
and now that law doesn't matter. So now you don't have laws. You
we know
have a dictator.
we've been lawless for quite some time.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be a major problem. I see a huge fight, but it's a fight that a lot of even the Democrats are going to have to really weigh and go, do I throw away my political ideals and fight this and know that I'm going to lose, but I'm going to go down fighting? Or am I going to sit back and go, I'm going to let this happen? And you got to be careful, because bad things happen when good people do nothing. And I think we are good people. And there is another way to fix the problem. And that is mandating that anyone that is not a citizen here can go fill out a piece of paperwork. We know who you are. We investigate them. If they're criminals, they go. Now, if they don't register, if you're caught 6 months later and you didn't register, out the door you go. I don't care if you were an angel. Out the door you go. And you could then, in a sense, capture these people that really are here to better themselves. They're working. They should never have been allowed in the first place.
Right. I mean,
I understand that, but they're
we
here.
know that, right? They're here. So now, how do you deal with it?
So you embrace them and you bring them into the fold. And you could do that really. It is very simple processes that you can adopt and use. And you could get these people so that they no longer have to hide in the shadows. And they could become productive citizens, pay their taxes, not have to worry about a knock on the door, not have to worry about an employer going, well, I can make a phone call and you're gone, and paying you $2 an hour. That can stop. We can do that. There's mechanisms in place that can allow us to do that, and we should. This is a great nation. I had, a discussion with a very good friend of mine who will be on this program, who said, well, what about on the side of the Statue of Liberty, give me your poor, give me your blood, and I go, well, that's a poem. That's not law.
Right.
So that's very nice.
Yes.
And that was given to us by the French.
Correct.
We
Yeah,
didn't
was
put
a
that
gift.
up there,
That was a
so
gift.
yeah,
A beautiful gift.
Yeah, right. And a thank you gift, but it's not the law.
Right.
So it's a nice poem, and it's very nice. Oh, he
Because was instilled in us. So that's why people feel like it. I can't speak for them. I'm going to say this from speaking from me.
It was not.
It's not that it's law. It's just it's what you were taught. It's what you know as to be the.
Well,
that's coming through the door.
no one-
That's what we accept
one-
because
no one is taught about the in high school or anything about how you heard well, your grandmother came and she was from
yes,
Germany, she was
Came
from
through-
Russia,
yeah.
she was from Italy, and
they came through Ellis Island.
but those that did not have a proper didn't have an invitation.
Yeah.
Now, on the wall. My grandfather
Yeah.
had an invitation to come here. He filled out the paperwork. They knew who was coming in. In Italy, people could just get on boats and take their chance that they would be let in. And that's where the term WAP came up with, without papers.
Yep.
You showed up without papers, but you know what? Giovanni, you look like a nice guy, and you know, you're not going to hurt anyone here, right? You're not going to, you know, boom, boom. You're registered to come in. You weren't a citizen. Coming in through Ellis Island didn't make you a citizen,
absolutely
right?
not. Absolutely
It
not.
didn't make,
but it just, you came in through the proper channels to
they
come
knew
through
who
here.
came in.
Right. We don't have that going on. So
No.
now you have no idea who's coming
No.
through the proper channels. And
And-
it's the
what-
Wild West. You
And
know?
it's worse than that, because we've had people that the border police have caught that were on terrorist watch lists.
Yeah.
And were told they had to be released. And this just wasn't, you know, this was a fluke thing. This happened time and time again. And that should never be. I mean,
Well, wait a minute. Wouldn't there be a reward on their head?
no, they were just on a watch list. They weren't, you know,
There was
it
no
wasn't
money
like
involved?
Bin Laden. You know, coming through.
Well,
It's
there's
like,
money involved. I don't know. I mean,
no,
you
no,
know,
no. And but a border,
I'd put them on the
police.
side and then call
but the border
someone and
police
tell
are
them
not
come and-
entitled to that reward. Just so you know, because
No,
it's
I
their
would call
job.
if I was a border patrol person, I would be calling my buddy, being like, "Come and get this guy because you're gonna get a reward."
I mean, you could, but your job would be then to hold him, detain him, and then classify him. So or her, you know, but
But yeah, whether
they're
no
being
one's
told
doing
to catch and release,
right,
and I mean that's just
which is I mean it's
crazy
just-
world.
It is. It's
Crazy
disturbing. It's disturbing. But you know, we're unfortunately witnessing
and I would say-
firsthand what's happened as far as
I would
illegal
say-
immigrants who are criminals and who are
Yeah, but you know what?
harming other
Let,
citizens
and,
here
and let's
because
be
they're not
rea-
citizens.
Okay,
you
but
know?
let's be realistic in that number, and say that 95% of the people that come over here are not criminally intent.
no.
So, are you going to throw out a barrel of apples because there's one bad apple in it?
Honestly, at this point in time, yeah.
No.
It needs to be. Things need to stop. They need to just
But
stop.
you don't-
Stop letting people
you
in who are
don't
not
throw
going to
the-
be vetted.
okay,
They're
but-
not
but-
vetted. They're not even vetting them
Okay,
anymore.
just
That's
stop.
the problem.
Just stop for a minute. You're throwing the baby out with the wash.
You weren't
They-
guaranteed to get in here anyway.
No, there was no. They should never have been here. We can establish that right from the. Everyone can agree. If you came over here illegally,
Yeah.
then you have absolutely no right to be here. We can all agree on starting that line.
Right.
At,
But that's who
at
I'm
zero.
talking about. I'm talking about the criminals who are
Yes.
not supposed to be here.
Yes, but if
who
you start,
are,
yes,
and we're not doing anything
no,
about
no.
it.
But here is the thing. An illegal is an illegal. There is no difference. There is no. You can't say, you know, Miguel here has been cutting my lawn for the last 8 years,
Okay.
and
He's
he's a
illegal?
wonderful guy. He's illegal. He never hurts anyone. Goes to church. Goes to Lowe's food. I see him buying food. I see him and his family doing nothing illegal. And then you see an MS-13 person who, you know, you're going, how the hell did this guy got arrested 12 times? He's not a citizen and he's not at the border? They didn't kick him out? But are you going to say that in one breath that both of these people are illegal and need to be treated the same?
They're illegal. So yes, you are treated the same. But going back to what we were talking about earlier, how we're going to deport the illegals, it would be best to remove the ones that we know who are hardened criminals.
Yes,
who
there's
have
no
a
doubt
record
about
and
that.
everything. That's
There-
what I'm talking about.
there-
Then work your way down and then decide that
There's-
you have to really evaluate what
you
you're
got to
dealing
be careful
with. But
because you can't be legally, you can't be just a little pregnant. You are either pregnant or you're not pregnant. So it's the same gauge. You could have someone who says illegal is illegal.
Yeah.
We're going to treat
I
you
get-
being a super criminal, you're still illegal. So I could bring you down and I could bring this guy up to the same level of that. Is that what we want to do?
But
Because
I
that
think
is
making
what-
that, but making that, I got a happy medium of how do we deal with this in in the most humane way possible. I would think that yeah, they're all illegal. It doesn't matter. All across the board,
then
illegal.
how-
But then you have to now start
So
classifying the level
if you
of it.
go to all the people that are here illegally, and go to your local library, go to your local motor vehicle, there'll be a form there that you fill out, and you have to be. If we find that you lie on the application or anything like that, you're out. But
but you're making like giving reason as if they're really going to go and fill forms out. They
But
came over
no,
here
no, no,
illegally.
no,
They're
no,
not
no,
going to go
stop.
run and fill forms
then
out.
then what you do by giving them this chance, you can give them not amnesty, but you can start the process that you're registered. This is like coming in through Ellis Island. Now you can apply for citizenship. It's not sign it and you become a citizen. You register, and now you're in the system. And when we call you, if you have a change of address, you got to let us know so that we can notify you, and then we can start the process. Now, if you do not, if we do this as a huge campaign, and the Democrats who allowed all these people in can be the ones handing out the cards going, fill out these paperwork. Fill this out. Because it stops the government from coming and just tearing you out. Now, on the 181st day, if 180 days you had the opportunity to fill this out and you didn't, and we now catch you, where we go, well, Maria, I can't find you as being a birth certificate of here. I can't find where you filled out Form A. There's a bus here, and off you go.
I mean, I don't mean to laugh, but I'm laughing because in my head I'm going, we don't even know where they are. They are
but here
you're making it sound like as if it's just easy to just put in a mailer and mail out these things for them to fill out.
No.
So you do that.
If you give them,
insane.
if you give them the opportunity to come out of the shadows, and you could use church groups, you could use anyone to get these people to come in out of the shadows.
So you get So I mean, I'm going to entertain this theory of you have everyone fill it out. 6 million illegal immigrants run.
I wish it was only 6 million. But go ahead.
Run to the hills as if it's Willy Wonka's golden ticket, and they fill out all their
Oklahoma
information.
land rush, but go ahead.
And they go, yeah, we're going to start the process. Okay, great. So now, who's manning all of this? Who then is taking on that task of beginning the process of vetting these people who filled out this information? So now you got to go through. Everyone's filled it out. They did their due diligence. Great. Now you got to go through and wean them out for what? Who really wants to become a citizen? Who's a hardened criminal?
Right. And
Can't
in that you're going to have a thumbprint. You're going to have something. So if you've been arrested for a
But then,
crime.
I don't. But that's what I don't. I don't foresee the hardened criminals just kind of
They
coming
won't.
forward.
But if we capture them, if you're caught, and you were robbing a liquor store, you don't get a trial.
Well, they shouldn't anyway.
No. But we caught you doing a crime. You shoplifted, and you haven't filled out one of these forms yet that gives you the Willy Wonka golden ticket. If that is not the case, you bypass. You have no rights, and off you go.
So if they fill it out, they as a hardened criminal.
No, not as a hardened criminal.
We're
If
saying
you fill
no
it,
hardened criminal. Okay,
because
the moment you're
why?
a hardened
Okay,
criminal,
because
you
a
gotta
hardened
get shipped
criminal
out.
will not come out of the shadows, but they'll eventually get caught. Something will happen.
But we
and-
want to keep them here.
No,
That's the
we
crazy
don't want
part.
to keep. We don't.
Some of them do.
Okay,
Some of them don't believe that they should have to leave.
Okay, but the process is that to help the 95% of those good people, we're going to accept the fact that
But it goes back to what I
5%.
was saying earlier. Then you're classifying them. So you're making them fill out paperwork to classify them.
To
Classify them.
No,
because you're trying to wean out.
no, it's
wean
they've
out the
already
bad.
they
to keep
already
what could potentially be the good.
they already know who the criminals are. They've been arrested. They've been in jail. These people,
And they're still here.
yes, but this way you have a law that says you can't be here. So when we do capture you, and you will be captured, you're gone. A state of California can't protect you. You can't run
But
and
they
go.
want to.
But again,
They want
if
to.
if you have a federal law and federal law
New York City. I mean, really.
stop.
Sanctuary cities.
Stop. Federal law supersedes state law. It trickles down this way. Those people who want to protect, not a Mayor Adams, but a Mayor Adams. Let's use him, who says, "I'm going to protect them all." Well, he gets arrested. He gets arrested, and so now you're arrested. Do you know that under federal law right now, they could go in and they could find that Adams broke the law. They could remove him.
Yeah.
Not the state. The feds can come in and remove them. Now, that is using a very, very hard ruler. But it could be done. And again, I say, you put this in place and you make an example of a couple of these people and everyone will get in line. Because it's federal law. And you'll have people going, "Hey, Miguel, did you sign the papers? They're going to be at their church. Sign. They're going to be there with this going." But those that aren't criminal, we already know
Right.
who they are.
Right.
We know who those criminals
I don't
are.
know if, I don't know. I don't know if people.
We have 1.6 million of them that have to go. So we already know that. And if you take a look, if you were to say there's 8 million people here,
Immigrants.
illegal immigrants here, and you would go, well, if there's 1.6, that means 20% of those here are illegals, but do we punish the 80%? Do we classify them as hardened criminals?
Right.
So the
You
answer,
still have to classify them. Unfortunately, you're dealing with a number that, yes, you're unfortunately going to have to classify.
okay. Let's just stop for a minute. My grandmother came over here in 1912 as a child. Her mother and father
Yeah.
came here. She wasn't born here. In 1912. Ask me when she became a citizen.
When did she become a citizen?
1942.
There you go.
30 years later.
What made her become a citizen?
World War II.
So there were
And
there were
the behest,
events
that-
that occurred in our history.
but there was because her parents came in and signed the paper, there were records to go,
Right.
she was here, documented.
We could have had all of this if they would have just come over the right way.
No, but they
instead of
could-
letting everyone
no,
come
no,
over
no, but they-
illegally
no.
and then having to classify
Stop.
everybody.
The right way as it stands, just hear me out. The right way is you go to the United States Embassy, you fill out the paperwork, and you wait 10 years. For some, 10 years, that's a death sentence. So what do? They come over here illegally, and guess what? They end up here.
Yeah.
So the
Because
10-year
we
wait.
embraced it.
But the 10-year wait then became meaningless because they were here, and
But that 10-year wait for someone who actually followed the rules and waited 10 years is a slap in the face to them who
it
actually
is
wanted to be
is-
vetted in this country and become
it
an
is-
American
it-
legal
it-
citizen.
it's
It's a slap in the face.
but the slap in the face is that they allowed the illegals in here, knew they were here, and
We
didn't.
all know this.
But
we all know
so
that.
so how you can't turn back time. You could only say from this point on going here, this is how we're going to do it. And the people that were in this nowhere land, we're going to address it because it's either that
But we
or
did have the borders up. But then we were told you can't have the wall.
okay,
Oh,
but
oh,
you
no.
you stop. That is history. We could scream all we want about it. My problem is that you might have people that will say that in 1950 these people came over and never left. Are their children citizens? How about if you're 80 years old now and you know, no one questioned you. You have a birth certificate. No one questioned whether or not you're.
I would say don't fill the fucking form out.
No, but this happened in 1950. I'm not talking about now. You could have people go back retroactively. That is not what you want to do because you'll have people that will stay in the shadows.
Yeah.
What you want
That's
to do.
what I'm saying. They're not going to come and fill forms out
They
if
will
they
come
feel
out.
threatened.
No, they will come out as if there was a pathway to citizenship. They will come out. And those that don't, when they're found, when they go to the hospital for treatment.
But there was a pathway for citizenship. They just didn't want to go through the
No,
proper
no.
channels to do it.
No,
they ran
so,
here
okay,
illegally.
all right, but they were allowed in.
I know, but that I know they
You
were
can't-
unfortunately
You can't.
thanks to
you
you know
can't-
who
but-
allowed them in and just decided
Stop.
that our walls
go-
and borders
I'll go
didn't
back-
mean anything
Okay,
anymore.
I'll go back all the way to when I was.
But why
around.
couldn't we just stick to the plan we had in place, where we were manning the border and we were maintaining and pushing
Because
back?
the people
we were
that-
always going to have an
Okay,
influx
you could
of
close-
illegals,
And I said, you close the border.
but you can control it.
No, stop. You close the border. No one can come in. It
We
stops.
had that.
No. And now we address the people that are here. So you don't have an influx of them coming in trying to beat the clock. You set this up. You have 6 months to register. Nothing happens in that 6 months. You register. You now
I know
are
you're
on the
trying to
list.
fix a disaster.
But there's no other way. The only other way is throw everyone out. Throw everyone out. Get your clean
do you
broom and sweep everyone out. And
I
that's not the
am not
answer.
smart enough to figure out how we're going to fix
But
this
see,
mess.
but see, that's why I'm here.
I am not.
Stop thinking I will do it
All
for
I
you.
know is let's learn from this
There is no
and just control the border. I'm not control the border. That's what it was meant for.
First, everyone has to realize that you don't have a country unless you can define your borders. You have no country. So that's the first rule. Then you have to have the second rule is that here are the laws and we obey those laws and that everyone obeys them. But that has not been the case. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube after it's squeezed
But
out.
then look, let's
Evaluate
evaluate why
Yes.
that wasn't the case.
Because the waiting list to come in here was unrealistic with the whole intent of I'm not going to look.
Then
But and the people who didn't, the people who filled out the paperwork, the people that didn't go, I'm doing this the right way
yeah.
because I don't want to get jammed up. Well, those were the real victims. Forget about the illegals; those were the real victims. So that can be addressed. But in the meantime, we have to stop the hemorrhaging. If you don't stop the hemorrhaging, if you don't plug the leaks in the boat's going to sink and the person's going to bleed to death. And that's what's going on.
Closing the border.
Closing the border stops.
But then but as you're saying that, like, how do you fix it? Close the border. You're going to stop the hemorrhaging.
No, but that doesn't answer the question of what do you do with the people
Well, no,
here.
we already know that. We already know that we're in a debacle, and we've got
But
to figure it out. But from this point
Yes.
forward, you cannot let any more people in.
And you can do that. You can make the law. You could make an executive action, and you can do that. Trump had closed the border. Bush had closed the border in 2011. Clinton did it. It can be done. You can stop it. It is possible.
Yeah.
But now you got to address the problem. It's
I don't think it's. I don't know how they're going to address this problem.
okay. Then what you're saying then is the patient has cancer, and we can either cut it out, or we can try to address it.
I don't know.
Well, it still has to get addressed.
Right.
It
Yeah, it does.
you
I'm not smart
can't-
enough to know the path
But
to,
I
to
am.
figure it
Like
out.
I said, I am. I have it all
I am
figured out.
not. I am not. You know, I think that
I'll be on the phone call.
it's a disaster. You know.
Hey, John. Yeah, I was listening to your podcast.
And I do. I want
Wonderful.
to blame people because I feel like
No.
that's what we do. We like to blame.
I'm not blaming.
But-
I mean, there's so many people to blame.
I know that's what I'm
So
saying.
many
That
people to
this
blame.
is where we go. We just immediately want to blame. And
They all
then-
got blood on their hands. I don't want to
Yeah,
hear it.
they absolutely
and now,
do. They
now what I
absolutely
want to do is fix the problem, and it's addressable, and it is a way. You know, I understand. You could take a pile of manure, and you could put ketchup on it. It's still a pile of manure with ketchup on it. You know.
Still feeding us shit.
Yes.
But yeah,
But it might taste better with ketchup.
sure.
So you got to do something.
You do. They do. It needs to be addressed. But again,
Let's
figure it out.
But
though,
we only have
without serious
but
conflict.
you can't take another 4 years to figure it out. We can't do this.
If you 4
There,
years, I'm thinking longer than that personally.
but
because
you can't. It's
how?
you have to.
I don't know how. I don't know how you think that it could be done unless,
Because we fought a war against nations that were 10 times stronger than us and had not as much
well.
resources, and we won it in 4 years. We can do this if we're committed to an honest, fair, and the people are here already. They're here. There's no stopping it. But the people that are criminals that are here, they got to go.
Right.
And we can do that.
Agree 100%.
We can do that. But then the people that are left, I used the sifter. And I sifted all those bad people out. And now the rest is here.
What are you going to do with them?
Give them a pathway to citizenship. Don't just go, next, citizen, next. Give them a pathway to it.
Well, I mean, if you're
pathway.
thinking of that, I'm sure it's already
Because
in
in
discussion or in the works.
No Democrat or no Republican wants to put their fingerprint on a document like
Why?
that.
You don't need to. We got your verbal vote of letting them all come through. We already know who's got blood on their hands, so it doesn't matter.
No one is going to put no Democrat or Republican will put their fingerprints on a document that gave illegals a pathway. I'm not saying criminals, but illegals a pathway
Why?
to citizenship.
Why do you say that? Why would they not want to give them that? But they were okay with letting them
Because
rummage through this country and
Because-
displaced, nowhere to
because
go. They had
when
no problem
you put
with
something when you put something on paper with your name on it, that thing lasts forever.
It's public record. We already know. We already got
no.
names. I already
No,
got
no,
names.
forget.
So
you
what does
know,
it matter that
because,
it's on paper?
Because the people that are in power can
Then
always
that-
use plausible deniability.
So, but then that tells me nothing will ever change because no one wants to be held accountable for it.
Okay, this
You
is
have
why
to be
no,
held
no.
accountable for
This
things to change.
This is why you have a president, and this is why you have a Republican president, a Republican Congress, and a Republican Senate, because people are so fed up that they want this fixed, and they're willing to go, you know what? We voted for you. We give you our blessing. We heard that you're going to deport these criminals. And, you know, and Trump has said, I want to see citizenship. I want to see this. I said it in every podcast, the two that we've had so far, is I pray that the Democrats will give Trump the room to either succeed or to fail, but they give him the room to do it.
They need to step aside. They just need to step aside. They've created such chaos in this country with all that. They need to
Yes,
just step aside.
but
If you're
that's
not
what I
going to
said.
hold yourself as a Democrat who is part of this chaotic uprising of bringing in illegal immigrants, if you're not going to hold yourself accountable, I have a
But
problem
it
with that.
just wasn't the Democrats.
Republicans, all parties that were involved.
Then-
but we know
then
this
this
weighs
is-
heavily
this is-
on the Democratic
Okay,
side. Let's
but,
be real.
Not really.
Yes, it does.
No. I disagree with that. But it depends what party was suited to what. So I don't go with that. This was about cheap labor.
But it was the Democrats who were hooting and hollering to turn a blind eye and let him in.
How many illegals came over during Ronald Reagan's term?
I have no idea.
A lot.
Doesn't mean it was right,
No, but I'm just saying you can't just go
but it doesn't.
bad Democrats. This was bad government. Period. Bad government. So what happened in 2024? What happened in 2024? You have a Trump who wins, who says, this is what I want to do.
But do you think they're going to let him do it? They blocked him
No, stop.
his first
They
time
can't. They can't block him now. He has Congress. He has the Senate. This is why the midterms are going to be so freaking important, because if they can hold the red line, there will be an answer.
I don't know.
There will be an answer. Yes, it will. It will happen. It will, because the Republicans will run Vance. The Democrats will try to run. It will either be Shapiro or Newsom. Probably Shapiro. Out of Pennsylvania, because he's a little bit more palatable. But you also have Newsom, that's the third largest economy in the world. He ran it into the ground, and
I don't know.
he's a terrible politician. I don't think he'll make it to it, but a Shapiro will. Shapiro has a lot of support. And the reason why Harris didn't pick Shapiro as a running mate
Yeah.
is because Shapiro wasn't the person to go, you want me to do what? Yeah, that's crazy. I'm not doing that. And he wasn't a yes person. You know, Walls, he was a hick. He was a hayseed. He was a hayseed. And he would do. And Harris, take everything with Harris, and you know what she was? She was a good soldier. She did what Biden told her to do. Go out there, talk to these, get money, speak over here, and she did what she was told to do. She was a good soldier. I didn't like her politics. No one ever
No,
liked her
God,
politics.
no,
She couldn't.
that's-
She
she's-
couldn't. She couldn't win her in her own state.
Yeah,
That get
please.
enough support.
Yeah.
But but you talk about a loyal person. She was a loyal person. She did what she was told to do. She was told she was going to run, and she ran. Now, I can't believe that she thought for a second she could win.
I do. Wow. That the Democratic Party, I guess I don't understand why they went with her. Out of all the out of
Because
the majority of the people they could have picked,
as I
why
said,
her?
as I said in my podcast the other day,
I don't know if they would have had a chance regardless if it wasn't Harris and it was someone else, just because of the
They were
state of
willing-
this country and where we were headed, that red wave was coming
After-
regardless.
after the
But-
debates, they conceded the White House. They knew they were going to lose the White House. What they didn't want to lose was the Senate.
Yeah.
Because if Trump would win, which they were going to concede that to him,
Yeah.
the Senate could block him and nail his door shut, and he'd have to fight
Like-
through an executive action, just
Yeah.
like Biden. They made Biden do, and nothing gets done.
Yep.
They
Because that was the fear. That was the fear that we were going to have that repeat.
never for a second believed that they would not take the Senate. And they took all of the Congresses. They took them. Now this leads to it might pass by one vote. I'm sure there are certain Democrats that will lean towards the Republicans only because
Yeah.
it's a safe bet.
Yeah.
It's a safe bet. And they'll be
I
there's
want them to work together. And they got to
bipartisanship.
got to work together.
Bipartisanship is how our democracy
Right.
works. And for the last 25 years, we've seen what happens when it does
You
not
can't,
work.
right? You can't reach across the aisle.
and-
you can't
and-
make this. It's
Right. You can't
It's
run the
got to
country
work.
when you're at each other's
Yep.
throats.
It-
You know.
agreed.
So, and the kids don't like when mommy and daddy fight. And so what did they do? They replaced mommy and daddy. And this should be a wake-up call that they took a Trump and he won. How bad were the Democrats that Trump won? Honestly, how bad? How bad were the Democrats that a Trump won? That he was the only person that the Republicans could bring forward? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he's yeah.
Yeah.
It's Trump, and I mean it's Trump. It's also a comeback.
I mean,
Greater, stronger.
it's mind-boggling.
But
It's
it
mind-boggling.
goes back to the state of our country and
They-
where we were headed
the
and the fear
Democrats-
of where we were
the
headed
Democrats
because of
Have done such a lousy job.
correct of where the
that
Democrats
they
had
allowed, They
put us in a place where we
allowed a Trump to win.
they did
I
that.
blame a Trump win on the Democrats.
Yeah.
So, Democrats, you're getting what you deserve. Now, for all of us Republicans, I'm hoping we don't get caught up in that. I believe that regardless of what is out there, Trump is a good person. He's a man of conscience. Listen, what he did in his personal life and all that, I could care less. I can care less.
Well, he was
cared
not a
less-
politician, so he wasn't doing it like he was living his life as an average Joe, just a regular person.
Yeah.
So he didn't have
But
to really
right,
care what was going on in his life. Where a politician has to care.
But I didn't care. I didn't care what he was doing. I don't care if he knew this individual. He did know some bad people, and so did Bill Clinton. Knew some bad people. You get that high up, and you're going to meet bad people. You're going to meet good people. Who was the guy that dressed up in the clown and killed all the kids in
Gacy?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, he was a big fundraiser for the Clintons.
I hate clowns. Why'd you have to bring that up? out of all the serial killers, you had to bring up Gacy. The killer clown. Good, now I'm gonna have nightmares.
Hello, kiddies. Gave Bozo a bad name.
Oh, I hated Bozo too. I hated that show. Come on, kids. Win a bike. Throw
Come into Bozo's tent.
God.
Want to see the big top? Here's the big top.
You want to see my balloon animal?
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh. Where's my back scratcher
Yeah,
moment? The back scratcher moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So but they know bad people. It happens. You're in politics. You couldn't rub elbows with people.
I don't really care.
I mean, did Trump go to Epstein's Rape Island or whatever it was called? I don't know. According to the paperwork, he might
Okay,
have.
yeah, right.
And Clinton, Gates, they all
all
went.
did.
But
I don't know if anything bad happened during that time. I have no idea. That's speculation. There's no proof. I have not seen proof
Oh,
of what.
there's proof you'll never see.
But that's
it.
what I'm saying. Okay,
Right.
but that you can say that, but I
I
gotta
don't
be able
think,
to see that.
I don't think he brought 14-year-old girls over there because it
I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll never know because we're not privy enough to know what happened.
Well.
Because he hung himself in a
Oh, sure he did.
prison cell.
Sure he did. He fell.
Oink, oink.
Yeah, he fell up a flight of stairs. Somehow he defied gravity. I mean, it's like in Russia. Everyone falls out of an open window. I'd have a building. There'd be no windows in it. Because somehow
I
Russians,
try my rope and break.
yeah, well, somehow Russians don't seem to get the idea of gravity. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think Russians are a lot smarter than that.
I mean, I think Trump just fit the bill at the time, and
Trump knew
it is
how,
what it is.
What a great snake oil salesperson he would have made on the back of a wagon. This elixir will fix you. It cures everything.
Holding the glass bottle
Yeah, right.
and a spoon.
Right. Here you go. I mean, really, he
Open up and say America.
Yeah, really. It will cure what ails you. And it's true. He knew how to sell a product.
Well, he was a businessman.
Yes,
So let's
he
be real.
knew-
I
yes.
voted for him because I was done with voting in another politician. I wanted someone fresh, new, who had a business-minded attitude. Not that I'm saying this country should be run like a business, but he had that attitude. And he had the love of America. I think
America.
he is the epitome,
No, he's not the epitome.
He is.
No, he's not the epitome. Stop.
Fellow
Stop.
Trumpers will
Stop.
say,
Yeah.
you can not agree or disagree and agree.
He's just like one of us as he's waving out of his 757.
So what? But he is.
No, but
he
he's
loves
not-
his country, and I think that's why
I
people
think-
fell in love with him.
I think he truly does
Yeah.
love this guy, because what country could allow him to do what he's done? And it's true. What country would allow Elon Musk? What Bill Gates?
Why not? It's the American dream.
Bezos?
It's the American dream.
Yes. The
Sky's the limit.
Yes. There is no limit.
You know.
There is no limit. So, in that sense, I think that's how a Trump was able to convince America that he was the answer. We're still out on that. I think his first administration, as I said, his problem was he ran the country like it was a business. This
Right.
is not a business.
Right.
It's hardly a business. America is not a business.
But I think he learned from that experience, and
Yeah.
America wasn't ready to let go of him yet, and I really believe that. So
I think
That's-
everyone bought into the idea of where did 15 million votes come from?
Well,
That
that's
just
a whole
disappeared,
nother,
and
yeah.
I think America bought into the idea that the
That's-
fix was in, and whether or not that's true, and I said this in my podcast too, in the first one. If Trump can't produce factual information, I'll be the first one to call him a liar.
But I think he will.
Uh,
I think this country was it was more than just the trust me, that's a huge factor in it about the, it just showed up votes.
Yeah.
It was the divide that was happening in this country, and we don't want that. I think people need to understand, like, even though as a Republican, I don't want to see a divide like that. We get nowhere with division.
Only those are fighting
only
words.
unity can bring us to evolve and move forward with this country. This country, yes, it's ever changing, and yes, I understand. We live in a past as far as laws go and as far as the rules and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean we can't still follow those rules, but evolve.
Michael Road is boat ashore.
That's what
Hallelujah. And next, Kumbaya.
That's what I think. And I think people are done with that. People don't want to be, no one wants to be divided. No one wants to be separated. No one wants this, what
Well,
feels like this, a segregation is coming again. No one wants
Hold it.
that.
It's not?
No one wants that. That's not the path this country wants to go
Well,
down.
I'll take issue with that. People would like to be on one side, the winning side. No one wants to go, hey, you know what? I can't wait till we're beaten today. So people do want to be on the winning side. It is in our psychic. And now I will say that is a more male thing than it is a female thing.
Hush. How dare you? How dare you? Oh, the backlash.
Yeah, really.
Ooh, I feel it already. Ah.
Oh, I feel dirty. I'll have to
Yeah.
use my feminine wash.
Oh, interested in some summer's eve, are you?
I'll have two, please.
Not so fresh feeling?
Yeah, but it is a
Too masculine? Have a summer's eve.
yeah, or
Demasculize yourself.
Irish Spring. Women naked too. Yeah, do they really? Do they want to smell like a guy? Because I don't want a girl that smells like a guy. Because that would just make me uncomfortable. It would make me uncomfortable. A girl that smelled like a guy.
Gosh. But anyway, there's a lot of topics. There's a lot of topics that we're going to cover.
Whether you like it
A
or
lot
not.
of shenanigans. Things that you
But-
probably will agree with or disagree with. You'll probably, as we start a chat, and if I start reading chats, you'll probably call me a moron, which is all good. You're allowed to have your opinion. That's what makes America great.
Who's the fat guy sitting next to you?
Right. Yeah, right. Are you in trouble? Link.
Yeah, like, Blink if you want to call the police.
No, blink 2, yes.
Yeah.
3, hurry. But and I'm okay with that. I think we're all allowed our opinions.
No, only my
Oh,
opinion.
only your opinion
My opinion.
counts. Or everyone else's, not my own. But yeah. Well, that's what we're going to deliver. We're going to deliver our news with a twist.
And news with a view, but we're going to use facts. I like
Yeah.
using facts. And what happens is, and I said this in another cast, you could have the most liberal newspaper and you could have the most conservative newspaper report the same issue, use the same facts, and both of them, one says, the president took bold action by taking this course, where the other paper would go, the president defying what could be a Supreme Court decision, went down this path. But their facts are both correct.
Yeah.
It's how it's being presented and how it's being really fed to you. And I say this on, if you go to our webpage, fatcatproduction.com, cat spelled with a K, where the news is really served to us like a food dish. And you really have to be careful on the ingredients and the presentation. We've all had stuff that looked fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And then you taste it and you go, oh my God, and you get other things that goes, I'm afraid to eat this at this point, but I just paid $24 for this. I'm eating it.
How many times
And
have
it's-
you
and-
proven me wrong? You've called me out, just like you did tonight several times. Like, I'm not claiming to be brilliant. I'm not a journalist.
I'm not a journalist anyway.
right.
Like
I'm
I've
not-
already said, I have no journalist.
Exactly. This is
no
just
journalistic,
this is just
credit.
average Joe's couch talk, and
But the one thing, and I salute my parents with this, and I salute my in-laws with this, is that my dad would buy the New York Times, the Long Island Press, Newsday. He had like 4 or 5 newspapers, and you'd read the stories. And in school, we had to bring in current events. You had to cut something out of the newspaper and bring it in. Now, of course, having 4, the 4 brothers, and each one of us had to have a current events.
Yeah.
Someone was getting page 6. This guy in a donkey got run over.
But current events. Yeah, but you had to read the article
Yes.
and then not read it in front of everyone. Well, sometimes you did,
Yeah.
but sometimes you had to give your interpretation of it.
Yes, you had to
Right.
give your own little
Right.
ad lib of what was happening in it. And I mean,
Based
I
on the
did that-
facts that were given in that article.
Yeah, I had to do that in first grade.
Yeah, I totally remember.
First
it.
grade.
I used to cringe.
Yeah. And you had to stand up in front of people.
Shaky hands and read them.
You had to stand up in front of people, and you had to be heard. And I mean, I look at schools now, and it's frightening, the nonsense that they're being taught. Nonsense. Absolutely no life values.
Well, we can have a whole nother podcast
yeah.
on our educational system.
And I was lucky. I grew up on Long Island. I grew up in a very predominantly middle class or upper middle class, but working people. And I was exposed to a lot. My parents traveled a lot, took us places where amazing. I look back at where my parents took us and what we experienced, and I've been to more places than most sailors and experienced more. So I salute my parents who made us read newspapers, discuss things at the dinner table, and we didn't have set hours. My dad was a doctor and would work, and he'd come, and most of the time we had pretty good set hours for meals. But with my mother and my father-in-law, and I've known them since I was 13 years old, he'd be up there with his newspaper. He'd discuss things. My wife, who was girlfriend at the time, would, challenge her dad on stuff, and they'd have a discussion. And it was really wonderful. And
But that's what should be happening. It's just
But-
discussions.
but
you know, just like this. This is discussion.
you had to be careful, and I realized that very early on, that this article said this, and this article said the same thing about the same event, and it's kind of different. You know, this one made me feel all right. That one really made me feel angry, and you know, you catch on real quick to say, oh, okay, why does it make me feel angry? Because this goes against my sensibilities. And so it was interesting on how that rounds you out.
There's a website. It's called Free Spoke,
Yeah,
and they actually do that.
yeah.
They've got a left, a middle, and a right.
Yes, and
And it's funny because you know you can go on that site and actually read, like you're saying, the facts are there. It's just the verbiage
Right.
and how they catch your eye with it.
yep.
And
Yep.
yeah, I
That was always the joke. Can you imagine the ratings on a news show if the people were topless? Yeah, right. You know.
not anymore, South Carolina.
Really? Well, yeah. Well, that's.
Age verification now in effect.
But that is the and for you people in South Carolina that have to go into the age verification for going on those sites, may I recommend you use a VPN with a proxy server that you could log in like you were in Los Angeles. You could log in like you were in New York. You could log in, and you skirt that. So there's all ways to do it. I'm not saying to that, and you don't break the law with that. No. Again, I say I'm not a lawyer. You know, I can never be a lawyer. I have a soul, but the idea is that if the state is restricting you on where you can go, there's ways to go around that with proxy servers and VPNs and where they can't see what you're doing and privacy. You know, I'm in my house here. I'm not doing anything illegal. You
Just
know,
goes back to my
you know.
government overreach.
Yeah. I mean,
My conspiracy theories.
you know. And today's show is sponsored by Barely Legal.
All right.
Yeah. So, and that these are all things that we'll hit upon. Is, you know, how free do you really think you are?
Mm-hmm.
How much freedom do you think you have? And don't confuse liberty and freedom. They're two completely different things.
Nice.
So segue into that.
Segue, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And
All
with
right.
that, I'm going to say, well, almost, because I'm going to put up my still of our show, and tomorrow I promise the website will be up and completed. Well, I got a lot going on here, and
Bear with us. Bear with
every
us.
time I think, you know, okay, I'm going to have 3 or 4 hours of time to do stuff. I mean, I'm just waiting for a satellite to come down and hit me and just finish me off. And I said, if there was really a God, if there was a God, that would happen, you know. And if my one child really did love me, they'd put a bullet right here and just end it, you know. So, but yeah. Other than that, I know it's horrible. And people, oh, it's terrible
really,
to say.
Wow.
That's horrible to say.
Debbie Downer.
Yeah, really.
And with that, we're out.
Really. Yeah,
Alice
don't worry, I'm not gonna.
Incognito out.
I'm not doing any terrorist acts or anything like that. But, yeah, jeez.
But yes.
It's been a wicked couple of days, and I just haven't had the time, and I don't work. I don't do anything, you know. And it's not like I'm sitting over there with my Fritos. I don't buy Fritos anymore; they're too expensive. But I do eat my corn chips.
I will. Food Lion. They make a very good knockoff brand. Food Lions. Food Lions Fritos.
Not a huge fan of Walmart, but the Walmart brand corn chips. You know, the big difference of $1.97 and $5.96 a bag.
Oh yeah, $2.18 at Food Lion.
Yeah. Take that,
Right.
Food Line.
All right.
But I'm going to say goodnight, and because this is being filmed, this is being taped, digitized on January 8th. Is this
Yes.
the 8th,
Yep.
right?
The 8th,
And-
2025.
And it's like 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
This will go up tomorrow at about probably about 2 in the afternoon is when I'll get a chance to really do this, and hopefully we'll go live one of these days. I ran into some technical problems going live in the fact that I didn't get approval from YouTube, and they make you wait 24 hours, and I was certain I had gotten approval already, and so that kind of messed us up because we were going to do a live one, but instead
Yeah.
we archived it. All right,
So stay tuned.
all right. Good night, folks.
Good night.